Good evening and welcome. My name is Demetra McBride and I'm coming to you live from Palo Alto. That's the heart of Silicon Valley, known as the center of innovation, design, technology, art, and creativity. For someone like me who works in sustainability, this is also an especially exciting place to live because this is where sustainability was taken from its roots and evolved into something bigger that keeps on evolving into something that's more important and more engaging for all of our communities. Sustainability was created by great minds several decades ago who looked at our planet and said, here we have a planet, we have a growing population, but we have finite resources. That's clean air, clean water, rare minerals, and of course our conventional sources of energy. What sustainability was evolved or created to do was to have you curb your consumption, actually a science of conservation, a design of conservation that would allow us to grow our population, reduce our consumption, and yet not really feel the difference, to be smarter about the way we consume. However, here in Silicon Valley and the San Francisco Bay Area as well, that science has evolved into a design and art and technology just like the spirit of Silicon Valley itself. Right now, it's not simply about conservation. Right now, it's how are we going to have renewable energy and infinite forms of new technologies that give us energy. How are we going to evolve a society that is healthier? How are we going to grow? How are we going to be more productive, but yet conserve and consume less? How are we going to create economies that are resilient? And how are we going to create and really grow our human capital, that precious population, so that that population represents assets, not just costs? Another part of what makes this area really exciting in the area that I work in are other transformative icons that come from here, but in a way simply couldn't have grown anywhere else. We're lucky to have one of them with us tonight, Michael Killen. Michael is a Renaissance man who's had a number of extraordinary adventures and successful careers throughout the world. For the last several years, he's developed and distinguished himself yet again as an artist in this area. What really makes Michael stand out is that Michael came to Silicon Valley, he settled here, and he doesn't just capture the visuals or a snapshot of this society. He's also captured a zeitgeist. He's captured that spirit of innovation and that alchemy of design, science, innovation, and the environment. Michael, welcome. Happy to have you with us this evening.
Thank you, and I couldn't have anyone better than a leader in this area than you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I had the pleasure of meeting Michael when we were very, very fortunate at the County of Santa Clara to feature one of the largest, actually the largest painting devoted totally to the spirit of sustainability. Michael, the painting is here behind us, and
Yes.
before we get too far off and going down memory road, I think it's really important for you, really as the artist, to really talk about the evolution of this work.
I will. Thank you. Hi, I'm Michael Killen, and I'm honored to be here, honored to be introduced by Demetra. And I will explain the evolution of this painting, my motivations, and maybe even how one puts something together like this. And we have time. I'm also going to share some insights as to our next big project. But this is the painting, and it is called Sustainability. And Demetra got to sustainability before I did. Before I tackled this painting, I primarily developed a series of paintings where I interpreted climate change. And the way I got involved in making paintings about climate change came from out of the clear blue sky. I received a phone call one day from a woman named Ruth Waters, who runs a museum in Belmont, the Peninsula Museum of Art. And out of the clear blue sky, she said, I want you to meet a collector, an important person. She's also an artist. So I met Arabella Decker. And Arabella Decker is a big, wild, eccentric woman. And she challenged me to apply my skills, whatever they might be, to help increase awareness of the threats to the environment, the threats to industry, the threats to you and I. And that led me to make a series of paintings on climate change. And very quickly, when I started to think about the great organizations such as Stanford, Harvard, MIT, the Carnegie Institutes of Science, the California Academy of Arts, and all the other great organizations that are out to inform us of how our world is changing and the threats to us as a result of the depletion of fossil fuels, while at the same time increasingly putting things in the atmosphere that threaten our health, our economy, our future, as well as the growing threat of climate change, I came to a realization of what was happening around the world. All these great people and organizations were trying so hard to get you to support their policies and to change their behavior that they almost universally, all these folks, including the federal government, the state of California, felt that they were not making enough progress. And almost all of them were relying on one approach to inform you and gain your support, and that is to appeal to your logic. And when you think about what scientists do, mathematicians do, government policymakers, a lot of it is appealing to your sense of logic. So I decided to try to make paintings that allowed those organizations like the County of Santa Clara, the City of Palo Alto, NASA, and other organizations to use these paintings not just to appeal to people's emotions, but maybe more important, to give these organizations something that is a little newsworthy. And a painting of this magnitude is newsworthy. A painting like this that would bring attention to their good ideas. And that's what all of this is about. And when I looked at climate change and why it's so hard to get the public to really get behind it, you know, it's got a lot of problems. It's an incredibly complex topic, you know. I mean, you've got to be a scientist, really, and have to have faith, just like you have in religion, to really accept that climate change could destroy or cause a lot of misery to the people on this planet. And it's not a product. What do you do with climate change? It's hard to see how to make money. It's not related to a solution. And then I hit upon sustainability. It is a non-political thing. It is something we all can agree on. If we are wise and use our energy as effectively as possible, as we build buildings that use as little energy, we support our government's efforts to have automobiles that have high energy efficiency, mileage efficiency, we are going to do two things. We are going to gain more freedom and liberty than ever before, because we're not going to be wasting all of this money and losing our power and time, you know, struggling to earn money to pay for our gasoline. So that had me thinking about a painting on sustainability. However, one Sunday, an amazing thing, a surprising thing happened. I'm sitting on my computer and I'm doing my email, and all of a sudden an email comes across from the United States government, NASA. And I noticed that it's a carbon copy from a fellow named Steve Hipskind, who's the head of Earth Sciences for NASA Ames. And he sent an email to a big executive saying, I want you to commission Michael to make a painting for our new building, Sustainability Base. 2 weeks before I learned that NASA was building this building, Sustainability Base. And I immediately got an invitation to go over, and a fellow named Steve Zornetzer, who was in charge of building that building, and he's clearly the father of Sustainability Base, he gave me a tour, and we talked about what NASA was trying to do. And right then and there, I realized the work that NASA was doing to build this building, not just to create a building that uses less energy and spends less of our money as taxpayers, but to create an icon for the rest of the nation, to encourage the nation to go and build new buildings that are much more energy efficient and retrofit the others, because it would all be good for all of us. That led me to decide to make a painting for NASA. And I said, God, it's got to be NASA size. So first I started thinking about just one 6-foot panel, but then I said for NASA, maybe a second 6-foot panel, 12 feet. And then I said, wait a second, sustainability, the need for it is even bigger than NASA. I mean, it is a zeitgeist. It is something in the air. It's something hardly any of us ever thought about 10 years ago. But now, if you look on annual reports of corporations in the newspapers, government, where sustainability is everywhere. It is fundamental. It is important. And it's one of these management thoughts or spirit thoughts that comes like a wave. And there's been many other waves like this that have gained the attention of everyone. And they include things such as outsourcing, terrorism, and on and on and on. And so sustainability is in the air, and we all know it's in the air for a reason. It's important. And I'm just going to give you an example and make you think about something about to really appreciate how important it is. What comes after in terms of a management thought after sustainability? What could become in the air is survivability, okay? So now, in tackling a project like this, after Nasser and I discussed a few things, I went away, and for about 2 months I worked on other projects, and I kept thinking, how do I attack a project like this? One of the key ways was to say to myself, well, this is about renewable energy, isn't it? And it's also about some of the fossil fuel industries that hold a great grip on us. But I also want to say, and I know my environmental friends don't like this, we should break that grip immediately, but we can't. I mean, this country, all countries in the world, are dependent right now on fossil fuel, okay? But we have to do everything we can to encourage the transformation to the new economy, which is renewable and clean energy. So I broke, thank you, the task of making this painting suddenly started to become clear to me when I decided to devote 1/4 to wind, another quarter of the painting to thermal energy, another quarter of the painting to solar, and then another painting to NASA. But for me, it wasn't just NASA. It was all the smart, good people that were going to come to play to help us transform ourselves from a world where we think of sustainability to where we have a world of greater opportunities for everyone. I'll go over here for a moment. Air. So I thought about, well, I'm not going to put anything obviously in there for air, but this was a sail. I decided to put a sail, and this was a mass, in my opinion, and when the wind blows on that mass, especially in this great San Francisco Bay Area that we all love, the energy comes down here, and a horse goes forward, simple as that, and creates horse power. But I also put the Golden Gate Bridge in here because I'm a believer in place. If you write a book, a poem, make a movie, whatever, you always want to put something that allows the viewer, the audience, whatever, to feel the place. And as I worked on the place, the San Francisco Bay, I discovered that there is a great threat to the San Francisco Bay, to its sustainability, And that threat is, we all know, the marshlands, the wetlands around the bay are crucial, not for our enjoyment, but for the health of that bay, okay? And two corporations, one in Arizona called DMB, plans to build another city right near a place called Redwood City, near Palo Alto, near where I live, etc. And that threatens that important piece of land that we need to help filter the bay and help it stay healthy. And the other company is Cargill, which owns that land, that also wants a city to be built on our San Francisco Bay. And those kind of thoughts about what a city, what might happen by what those two companies might do to our bay are the things that go into my mind and further encourage me to make sure I put the Golden Gate Bridge in this painting. Now, I mentioned each panel, for the most part, addresses one type of renewable energy. And maybe you want to think, what do we have down here in red? You know, what we have here is my view of thermal energy. And what it is lovers. And look, one of them is reaching up to help provide energy and heat to this modern, high-efficient light. And what do lovers do? They create heat, okay? And in thinking about, you know, the future, the renewable energies, and the role of the fossil fuel folks, this, to me, is the coal industry. And they're there, and they got their tight grip around old-fashioned, inefficient devices and plants that provide us energy, which we need. And this grip is tight. And there's about 19 states in the United States whose politicians are committed to protecting the coal industry because of jobs, and we have to do everything we can to find ways to get those politicians and that coal industry to somehow migrate. It's not clean coal, it's not it. Migrate to new professions that this nation needs. And over here, this is an old incandescent light bulb, and behind it, I put some buildings that I tend to think need to be reworked so that they become more efficient. And there is, by reworking and modernizing the buildings, the factories in the United States, it can save us from having to build another 20 or 30 power plants. And I'll just mention this for a moment. This is our liberty. You know, the Statue of Liberty is our symbol for liberty. And I have her there, and I have her morphing into something down here, water, because water is almost synonymous with energy. It is energy in a way, and it's really a stressed thing in our lives. But I have liberty morphing because if we don't take on some of the challenges this nation faces right now, we will continue to lose our liberty. Now, I'm going to come over here for a moment. And I'll go back to the renewable energies in a while. I mentioned that it was NASA that focused my attention on making a fundamental painting that other companies, organizations could use to bring attention to themselves. So, sort of honoring NASA, I remembered that it was NASA that landed on Tranquility Base on the moon. And remember, they just built Sustainability Base, and there's a direct relationship between the two. And when the Eagle landed, you may recall the Eagle has landed, and this is my spaceship, you know, but for me, it's from your kitchen, a saucer and a cup, and I got the Eagle in it, you know, and And here I envision the folks from NASA who have a perspective that only they can have. They were able to look down from space on this little blue ball and see how stressed the life support systems are. And they're the people who built ways to live in space, a really harsh environment, and to get a feel for what a more harsh environment around this planet might be. And what can NASA bring us? Brains, a new perspective that we all can use. But again, I expand this not just to NASA, because this country, this world, is rich with people with a lot of brains, and we need for them to bring their brains to play. And many are doing the best they can. And then I want to mention, here is a solar panel, or at least what I think of a solar panel, and here are two persons helping to build a new building, because we do need new buildings, we need new cars that are all much, much more energy efficient. And over here, we need to conserve water, and we need new ways to purify that water, because we're going to run out of it soon. And if you think about what might happen with climate change in the Sierras, where we all get our water from, and some of us get it from the Colorado River, if the weather changes and the snow melt is not like it used to be, San Francisco, the San Francisco Bay Area, and other Bay Areas will have a really, really difficult time with water. So, and then over here, so we've done the solar, we've done the wind, we've done the thermal, and I forget what else. But anyway, as I worked on this painting, I said to myself, what is the best symbol for sustainability? And I came up with the notion that the best symbol is the infinity sign. Now, these are some of the ideas that helped me create this painting. And at this time, I would like to invite several persons to come up here with me. Would you want to come up, please? And I would like to thank them and acknowledge them, because it really takes a lot of people to pull off something like this. And first of all, I guess my greatest thanks is to my wife, Josephine, who has to live with all my ideas and my epiphanies every 5 minutes. And also, she's an artist, much greater credentials I'll ever have, and I gain a lot of insights. Janet Larson is somebody who I would say presents me with a lot of ideas, especially with respect to protecting the San Francisco Bay, and she is my interface to organizations such as the Committee of Green Foothill, the Sequoia Autobahn, the Save the Bay Foundation, and she helps me in a lot of different ways. And Janet, I thank you. And this is Dan Ingerman. Dan runs a printing operation, and he is instrumental in taking images of this painting and making them available to other organizations that want to have exhibitions and take advantage of this kind of painting. And he advises me on a lot of things having to do with prints of my work. Carol Harrington is the head of Harrington Design, a graphic artist group that helps me with all my graphic work. And she's also knows everything about the environment, and it makes it so easy to work with her because she knows all the topics, and she's connected to all the politicians and environmental groups in Palo Alto. Ron Wolf is my photographer, who is so kind to work with me and make images and images one right after another. And he is very happy that he was just, about 40 of his prints were just selected to be in the field guide of mushrooms for Western United States. It's going to be published by the University of California. Demetra, and I am so appreciative of you for all of your help. And with that, I want to step aside and say, it's your floor, your program. carry us to the end.
We have only a minute or so left, but I do want to thank you for joining us this evening. And I also want to thank the people who came and were inspirations to Michael and who still work with him, and of course the wife, where being a woman, we always know the important role that she plays as well. We want you to really think about what you've heard tonight. We hope, just not for this audience, but really in Santa Clara County, we're looking on the emphasis, and in the Bay Area, we're looking on the emphasis on children. This is kind of a way of thinking. This is a default that they need to grow up with. Michael, I want to thank you so much. I'm looking forward. I'm surprised, but I know that you are working on another work right now that has to do also with sustainability as well as climate action, and some very, very exciting developments that we're hoping will coalesce with the World Cup in San Francisco Bay.
Yes, and I'm delighted we've talked about this, and I'm delighted that we are working together.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you again, Michael, and thank you for joining us. Remember, this is Palo Alto, where sustainability isn't just work, it's art, it's design, it's technology, it's an adventure. Thank you.
Oh, I just want to ask one question. What is your most important project at the county right now related to sustainability?
Right now, Silicon Valley 2.0, more to come.
Just a little idea. What is it? I mean, I might want to make a painting on it.
It's a regional plan for climate action and adaptation to reduce our vulnerabilities and create economic resilience in healthy communities. Thank you.
Okay. I want to thank you very much. Okay.